In the shadows of a high-end restaurant, her Mandarin notes captured secrets of the Japanese crime lord, but when their eyes locked, neither knew that their forbidden past would ignite a war that would consume them both. Where are you watching this deadly cross-cultural romance from? Drop a comment and hit subscribe for more heart-stopping stories where loyalty and forbidden love collide. The steady rhythm of rain against the windows of Jade Dynasty couldn't mask the tension hanging in the air. Takashi Nakamura surveyed his domain from the corner booth. 12 men in tailored suits strategically positioned throughout San Francisco's most exclusive Chinese restaurant. They were celebrating their latest territorial acquisition, yet his focus kept drifting to the waitress with the delicate hands. Something about her movements seemed calculated, too precise, too attentive. She approached his table, eyes downcast, notebook positioned at an odd angle. When she leaned forward to pour his sake, her sleeve pulled back slightly, revealing a small tattoo, a cherry blossom with a dragon coiled around it. His breath caught. The exact symbol from his past. "Your name," he demanded, switching abruptly from English to Japanese. Her eyes widened, but she didn't flinch. "May," she answered in perfect English, her voice soft yet controlled. "May Lin." A lie. He knew that face, those eyes, from somewhere buried in his memories. She wrote something in her notepad, the strokes unmistakably Mandarin, not the Japanese he'd expect a server at his regular establishment to use. Takashi's security detail shifted uncomfortably. The restaurant had been swept for threats. But this woman, she was a variable they hadn't accounted for. "Write your recommendation," he challenged, sliding the notepad toward her, testing his suspicion. Their fingers brushed, sending an electric current up his arm. The contact was brief, but devastating. A collision of past and present. Her eyes finally met his, and the world stopped. May's hand trembled slightly as she wrote, but her Chinese characters were flawless. The translation? Careful what you order. Not all appetites can be safely satisfied. His heart hammered against his ribs. Was it a threat? A warning? When he looked up, her expression carried something beyond fear. Recognition. "You don't remember me," she whispered, switching to flawless Japanese that none of his men expected, her dialect distinctly from Osaka, his hometown. His phone buzzed. A text from his head of security. Unidentified woman. No employment record at Jade Dynasty before 2 weeks ago. Possible threat. Takashi gestured subtly, a signal for his men to create distance but remain vigilant. "Tell me why I should," he demanded, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "Kyoto. Cherry blossoms. 1999. 3 fragments that shattered his composure. The restaurant door burst open. 4 men in tactical gear entered, scanning the room. Federal agents. They hadn't come for him, yet, but the raid would expose them all. In a split-second decision that defied all logic, Takashi grabbed May's wrist and pulled her toward the kitchen's back exit. They had 45 seconds before his men created a diversion and the building would erupt in chaos. "Why are you helping me?" She gasped as they slipped into the rainy alleyway. "Because," he said, pressing her against the brick wall as footsteps thundered past. "You're the daughter of the man I was ordered to kill 25 years ago." Her eyes widened in shock. But what terrified him most wasn't her fear. It was the unmistakable flash of desire that passed between them as sirens wailed in the distance. 3 days of silence followed their escape. Takashi doubled his security, swept his penthouse for bugs twice daily, and slept with his hand on the gun beneath his pillow. Yet it wasn't fear that kept him awake. It was the memory of her eyes. The daughter of Chen Wei-lin, the man whose execution had elevated Takashi to his father's right hand at just 19. The girl who was supposed to have died in that same raid. "You should have killed her," Ichiro, his consigliere, insisted as they reviewed security footage from a warehouse conversion. "She's triad. Has to be." But Takashi knew differently. The triad wouldn't send someone so personally connected. This was something else. something worse. The private elevator to his penthouse chimed. His finger tensed on the trigger hidden beneath his desk. His security chief entered, expression grim. "We found her. Apartment in Chinatown. She's alone." "Bring her," Takashi ordered, ignoring the voice warning him that this woman was the most dangerous threat he'd encountered in decades. 3 hours later, she sat across from him in his private study, the San Francisco skyline glittering through bulletproof glass behind them. She'd changed into a simple black dress, hair swept up to reveal the graceful curve of her neck. "You're supposed to be dead," he began. "So were you," she countered. "The car bomb in Osaka, 2005. His jaw tightened. That information wasn't public. "Why are you in my city, Mei-Lin Chen? Or is that even your real name?" "I've had many names." She met his gaze without flinching. "But you knew me first as Xiao Chen." The little sparrow. The nickname struck him like a physical blow. Memories flooded back. A child hiding behind her father's legs during negotiations, watching him with solemn eyes. He'd slipped her candies when no one was looking. "Impossible," he whispered. But the evidence was before him, those same eyes, now in a woman's face. "After you killed my father, I was taken in by distant relatives. They wanted nothing to do with his connections." She leaned forward. "I came here for answers, not revenge." "You've been watching me." "For months," she admitted. "Learning your routine, waiting." His security detail would burst in at the slightest signal, but he didn't move. "You could have approached me directly." "Would you have believed me?" She reached for her purse. His hand shot out, gripping her wrist. "Slowly," he warned. She withdrew a faded photograph, a young Takashi standing beside a middle-aged Chinese man, a small girl partially visible between them. "The night before you killed him," she said, her voice tight with controlled emotion. Their hands were still connected. He should release her, call his men, eliminate the threat she represented. Instead, his thumb traced the pulse point at her wrist, feeling it accelerate. "I didn't kill your father," he said quietly. Her eyes narrowed in disbelief. "I saw you there. You saw what they wanted you to see." A security alarm blared through the apartment. Takashi moved instantly, pulling Mei behind his desk as the lights cut out. Red emergency lighting cast bloody shadows across the room. "Perimeter breach," his earpiece crackled. "Multiple hostiles." Mei's breathing quickened beside him. "They followed me," she whispered. "I led them straight to you." "Who?" he demanded, checking his weapon. "The same people who really killed my father." Gunfire erupted from the floor below them. They had minutes, maybe seconds. "There's a safe room," he said, moving toward a hidden panel. "But once we're inside, you tell me everything." She caught his arm, her touch burning through the fabric of his suit. "There's no time. They're here for both of us." The door to his study splintered under assault. Acting on instinct, Takashi pulled Mei into his arms, shielding her with his body as the first bullets tore through the wood. Her heart beat wildly against his chest, her breathing rapid against his neck. For one suspended moment, as death reigned around them, all he could focus on was the impossible feeling that he'd been waiting 25 years to hold her again. "Keep pressure on it," Mei commanded, tying a makeshift bandage around Takashi's upper arm where a bullet had grazed him. The safe room hummed with electronic surveillance, showing multiple attackers still searching the penthouse above them. "Professional hit squad," Takashi noted, studying the tactical movements on the monitors. "Not triad, not Yakuza." "Private contractors," Mei agreed. "Ghost cell." He shot her a sharp look. "How do you know that name?" "Because they've been hunting me for years." She finished securing the bandage, her fingers lingering on his skin longer than necessary. "They're the ones who orchestrated my father's death and made it look like Yakuza." Takashi's mind raced. Ghost Cell was a shadow organization that did the dirty work major governments wouldn't claim. If they were involved, this went beyond gang rivalries. "Why frame me?" he demanded. "To start a war." She moved away from him, putting distance between them in the confined space. My father was negotiating a truce between Triad and Yakuza. Someone wanted that to fail. The implications were staggering. 25 years of bloodshed, thousands dead, all orchestrated by a third party. And you've been investigating this? He reassessed her, the precise movements, the observant eyes. You're not just Chen's daughter. I work for Interpol's Organized Crime Division, she admitted. Or I did, until I went rogue 6 months ago when I discovered the connection to you. His jaw tightened. So you're a cop. I'm someone looking for the truth. Her gaze was unflinching. Just like you. The temperature in the safe room seemed to rise. They were enemies by every definition. Yakuza and cop, Japanese and Chinese, predator and prey. Yet something electric pulsed between them, something neither could afford to acknowledge. We have 15 minutes before my security protocol brings reinforcements, he said, checking the time. But once they arrive, I can't protect you from what they'll do to an Interpol agent. Then we have 15 minutes to decide if we're going to trust each other. She stepped closer, close enough that he could smell the faint jasmine of her perfume. Because I'm your only chance at finding who really killed your father, too. The surveillance feed flickered. 3 of the intruders had found the hidden entrance to the safe room and were setting charges. They're going to breach, Takashi warned, reaching for his weapon. There's another way out, May said. Behind the server rack. I memorized your building plans. He smiled despite the danger. Of course you did. The escape tunnel led to the service elevator. As they prepared to emerge, Takashi's phone vibrated. A message from Ichiro. Betrayal confirmed. Chen girl is bait. Kill her or we kill you both. He deleted it before May could see, his mind racing. His own organization believed he'd been compromised. Maybe they were right. Ready? She whispered, unaware of the order he'd just received. The door to the tunnel slid open. The service corridor appeared empty, but instinct told him otherwise. Someone was waiting. In one fluid motion, Takashi pushed May against the wall, his body covering hers. To anyone watching, it would appear he was subduing her. But his lips were at her ear, his voice barely audible. Camera in the corner. They're watching! My men have orders to kill you! Her body tensed beneath his, but she gave no other indication of surprise. Instead, her hands moved to his chest as if struggling, allowing her to whisper back. Then make it look good. Understanding flashed between them. Takashi's hand moved to her throat in a convincing display of aggression, while his other hand slipped a keycard into her pocket. Parking level 3, he murmured against her skin. Black Audi, go now. Come with me, she pleaded, the desperation in her voice not entirely feigned. I can't. His grip loosened. But I'll find you. He struck the wall beside her head, creating a diversion of plaster dust as she slipped away toward the stairwell. Over the security radio, he barked an order. Intruder escaping east stairwell. All units pursue. Knowing his men would head east, he bought her precious seconds to escape west. As Takashi turned to face the consequences of his choice, he realized with stark clarity that he'd just betrayed everything he'd built over 25 years. For a woman who might still be playing him. A woman who made him question the foundation of his entire empire. A woman whose touch left his skin burning with something he hadn't felt since cherry blossoms fell in Kyoto so many years ago. You let her escape. Ichiro's voice carried no emotion, which made the accusation all the more dangerous. The elder advisor had known Takashi since childhood, had guided him through his rise to power. Now he watched him with eyes that missed nothing. I let her think she escaped, Takashi corrected, wincing as the doctor removed glass fragments from his shoulder. Dawn broke over San Francisco, illuminating the destruction of his penthouse. She's more valuable as bait than as a corpse. The lie came easily, practiced over hours of interrogation by his own lieutenants. He'd spent the night building a fiction they would believe, that May was his unwitting pawn, not the other way around. The tracking device? Ichiro pressed. In the keycard I slipped her. She'll lead us straight to her contacts. Another lie. The tracker was in the car, not the card. It would show her movement, but wouldn't expose whoever she met. A small mercy he couldn't explain even to himself. Ichiro's phone chimed. The council is demanding answers. 3 of our soldiers dead, a security breach of our headquarters, and an Interpol agent walking free. Tell them I'll handle it personally. Takashi dismissed the doctor with a gesture. Arrange a meeting with the Triad Elders. If Ghost Cell is playing both sides, we need allies. The Triads? Ichiro looked aghast. After all these years? Precisely because of all these years. Takashi moved to the shattered window, surveying his city below. Someone has been manipulating us. It's time we compared notes. Alone at last, he checked the secure phone he'd kept hidden from his men. A single message awaited from an unknown number. Pier 39. Seafood restaurant. Back room. 3 p.m. May. His pulse quickened. She was still in the city, still taking risks, still trusting him, despite everything. At 2:58 p.m., Takashi entered the tourist-filled pier alone, having slipped his security detail. The seafood restaurant was packed with families and camera-wielding visitors. Perfect cover. He spotted 3 undercover Yakuza soldiers who'd followed despite his orders. He'd deal with that breach of loyalty later. The back room was empty, save for a waitress who handed him a folded napkin without a word. Inside was a key and another note. Hotel Nico, room 1217. Come alone or don't come, don't. It was either the most elaborate trap he'd ever walked into, or the most dangerous truth he'd ever pursued. Room 1217 revealed May standing by the window, a gun held loosely at her side. Maps and surveillance photos covered the bed, images of Takashi with his father, crime scenes spanning decades, and in the center a photograph of a man Takashi recognized all too well. Victor Zhao, he said, naming the CIA operative who'd been their liaison in the 90s. The architect of Ghost Cell, May confirmed. And the man who ordered both our fathers killed. She stepped closer, her expression a complex mixture of vulnerability and determination. I've spent 15 years building this case, tracing every connection. I was getting close, too close. That's when they sent the kill squad. Why come to me? Takashi asked, though he suspected the answer would shatter the careful distance he'd maintained. Because you were there that night. You saw something. Her voice dropped. And because despite everything, I remembered how you looked at me in Kyoto. Like I was more than just a crime lord's daughter. The air between them charged with unspoken history. I was supposed to be your bodyguard that night, he admitted. My father assigned me to protect yours during the negotiations, but I was called away. Deliberately, I now realize. When I returned, the compound was in flames. He'd never told anyone this part. I found you hiding in the garden. I got you out before the second explosion. I thought you died later, in the hospital. Recognition dawned in her eyes. The boy with the dragon tattoo. You carried me through the fire. And you've been hunting ghosts ever since. While you became one. Her hand reached up, hesitating before touching the scar along his jaw, a remnant of that night. We've been looking for the same answers from opposite sides. His phone vibrated. The tracker he'd placed on his own car showed it was moving, heading toward their location. Someone had found it, which meant, "We've been compromised," he said, already moving toward the door. "My organization is coming for both of us." May gathered her evidence with practiced efficiency. "There's a service elevator." "No." Takashi made a decision that defied decades of training. "My jet is at a private airfield. If we leave now, we can be in Tokyo by morning." "Tokyo? That's Yakuza Central. They'll kill me on sight." "Not if you're under my protection." He held her gaze. "I have resources there that can't be traced. People who were loyal to my father before this all began." Footsteps thundered down the hallway. Decision time. Why should I trust you? She demanded, even as she moved closer to him. Because I could have killed you a dozen times since the restaurant, he answered. And because when I look at you, I still see the girl I couldn't save 25 years ago. For one breathless moment, they stood facing each other, Yakuza lord and Interpol agent, enemies by birth, linked by tragedy, and bound by something neither dared name. Then May did the unthinkable. She reached up and pressed her lips to his, a kiss that held 25 years of questions. His response was immediate, hands drawing her closer as the world condensed to this single, impossible connection. The door splintered behind them. They broke apart, weapons raised in unison, facing the threat together as the first shadows crossed the threshold. Tokyo in November was a city of shadows and neon, rain-slick streets reflecting fractured light. 6 days had passed since their narrow escape from San Francisco. 6 days of safe houses, forged documents, and carefully maintained distance between them. The kiss hadn't been mentioned again. It hung between them, an unexploded mine neither dared approach. Takashi's private residence in the mountains outside the city offered temporary sanctuary. Ancient and modern security systems created a fortress hidden within traditional Japanese architecture. Yet he knew better than most. No fortress was impenetrable. My contact confirmed it, May said, entering his study where sliding paper doors opened to a garden dusted with early snow. Victor Zhao is in Tokyo for the Intelligence Summit. We have 72 hours. Takashi watched her, the precise way she moved, the alertness that never fully receded. She'd traded her waitress disguise for practical black clothing, her hair pulled back severely. Only her eyes remained the same, determined, haunted, and occasionally, when she thought he wasn't looking, softening when they rested on him. And your Interpol credentials? He asked. Officially suspended. Unofficially, my handler is arranging a secure extraction point. She hesitated. For both of us, if you want it. The implication was clear. Immunity, witness protection, a complete severance from his world. You know I can't accept that, he said quietly. Can't or won't. There was no accusation in her voice, only resignation. After we confront Zhao, there's no going back for either of us. His phone chimed with an encrypted message. Ichiro has arrived in Tokyo with a team. My absence has been noticed. They'll be hunting you as a traitor. She moved closer, her expression troubled. Every Yakuza soldier in Japan will have your description. Not every soldier, he corrected. My father's old guard remains loyal. We'll meet with them tonight. The tension between them stretched taut as a wire. Professional necessity had forced them to share close quarters, to plan together, to trust each other with their lives. Yet both carefully avoided acknowledging the current that ran beneath every interaction. We should prepare, she said, turning away. I'll need to alter my appearance before we leave. Takashi caught her wrist, surprising them both. May? Her name on his lips still felt like forbidden territory. If this goes wrong, it won't. She didn't pull away from his touch. If it does, he continued, there's something you should know. A distant security alarm cut through the moment. Takashi released her instantly, moving to the surveillance panel. The mountain road showed headlights, 3 vehicles approaching the concealed entrance. How? May demanded, already gathering their research materials. This location is off every record. Someone talked. Takashi activated the residence's defense protocols. Steel shutters descended over delicate paper screens. We have 4 minutes before they breach the outer perimeter. They moved with practiced efficiency, destroying evidence, gathering only essentials. When Takashi opened his hidden arsenal, May selected weapons without hesitation, her Interpol training evident in her familiarity with the Japanese-made firearms. The tunnel, he directed, leading her to the ancient part of the house where stone steps descended into darkness. It emerges 2 kilometers north. There's a caretaker's house with emergency supplies. As they hurried through the narrow passage, the distant sound of the first explosion reached them. His ancestral home, one of the few places he'd preserved from his former life, was being destroyed. The tunnel grew narrower, forcing them to press close. In the beam of their single flashlight, Takashi saw Mei's expression shift from determination to something more vulnerable. "What were you going to tell me?" she asked suddenly. Before we were interrupted. The tunnel curved ahead, the exit just visible. Beyond it lay uncertainty, Yakuza hunters, ghost cell assassins, a confrontation years in the making. This might be their last moment of relative safety. "That I remember more about Kyoto than I admitted," he said, his voice low. "I remember a girl who showed me her collection of origami birds, who made me promise to bring her cherry blossoms the next spring." Mei's breath caught audibly. "I thought you didn't recognize me." "Not at first," he admitted. "But when you said your name in the restaurant, something broke through. A memory I'd buried so deeply, even I believed it was gone." Another explosion, closer this time. They'd found the tunnel entrance. "We have to move," Mei urged. But she didn't step away. In the confined space, with death potentially moments behind them, Takashi did what he'd been restraining himself from doing for days. He cupped her face with his free hand, his touch reverent. "If we survive this," he said, "I want to show you the cherry blossoms, as I promised." Her eyes glistened in the dim light. 25 years is a long time to wait for a promise. "Some promises are worth keeping," he answered, and brushed his lips against hers, the barest touch, holding all the weight of their impossible situation. A bullet ricocheted off stone inches from their heads. The moment shattered as they sprang apart, weapons raised toward the advancing lights behind them. "Run!" Takashi commanded. "I'll cover you." But Mei stood her ground beside him, her stance mirroring his own. "We either both make it out, or neither of us does," she said with finality. As the first shadowy figures appeared in the tunnel behind them, Takashi and Mei exchanged one last look, a silent acknowledgement that whatever lay between them had become as inevitable as the confrontation they now faced. Together, they turned to meet their hunters, two solitary figures against the approaching storm. The caretaker's house stood empty, a weathered sanctuary against the mountain storm that had begun to rage. Blood dripped from a graze on Mei's shoulder as Takashi secured the perimeter. "They were waiting for us," she said, wincing as he cleaned her wound. "Someone knew about the tunnel exit." Takashi's expression darkened. "Only 3 people knew this safe house existed. My father, myself, and Ichiro," Mei finished. The betrayal hung in the air between them. "I've trusted him for 20 years. Takashi's hand stilled on her skin. "If he's compromised, then nothing is safe. No one." His phone vibrated with an encrypted message. A single address in Roppongi, followed by midnight. The old guard. Thunder crashed outside as they changed into the emergency clothes, traditional garments that would help them blend into the temple districts. When Mei emerged in a simple indigo kimono, Takashi's breath caught. For a moment, they weren't fugitives, but simply a man and woman, surrounded by rain and ancient wood. "We have 4 hours until the meeting," he said, forcing his focus back to survival. "We need transportation that can't be traced." Mei studied the maps on the wall. The caretaker kept a motorcycle in the shed. "Old, but it might get us to the train station in Nagano." By nightfall, they'd made their way to Tokyo's Neon Heart. The Roppongi address led to a private room above an exclusive club where 4 elderly Japanese men waited, their weathered faces revealing nothing as Takashi entered with a Chinese woman at his side. "The son of Hiroshi returns," the eldest said in formal Japanese, "with unexpected company." Takashi bowed deeply. "Tanaka-san, these are desperate times." "So we hear." Tanaka's gaze shifted to Mei. "The daughter of Chen Wei-lin stands before us. We thought you perished long ago, child." Mei's surprise was evident, but she maintained her composure, bowing in perfect Japanese style. "You knew my father?" she asked. "We negotiated the original peace treaty," another elder replied. before Ghost Cell destroyed everything we built. For the next hour, pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Victor Zhao had been manipulating both organizations for decades, creating conflict to maintain CIA influence in Asian criminal enterprises. Ghost Cell was his personal army, funded through black budgets and operating beyond government oversight. Zhao will be heavily protected at the summit, Tanaka warned. Even with our combined resources, reaching him will be nearly impossible. Unless, the youngest elder suggested, you approach from within. All eyes turned to May. Your Interpol credentials, he continued, suspended but not revoked. With proper documentation, you could access the security detail. And what about me? Takashi asked. I'm a wanted man on both sides of the Pacific. Tanaka smiled thinly. Not as Kenji Tanaka, my long-lost nephew and newly appointed head of security for my legitimate technology firm. We have 3 days to prepare your new identity. As the meeting concluded, Tanaka held Takashi back. Your father would be troubled by this alliance, he said quietly. The daughter of Chen is the key to ending this war, Takashi finished firmly. The old man's eyes were knowing. Is that the only reason you protect her? Outside in the cold Tokyo night, May waited, her face illuminated by passing headlights. Something had changed between them in the tunnel, a line crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. They've arranged a safe house, Takashi said, leading her through back alleys. We'll be separated for the next 2 days while they prepare our covers. May stopped abruptly. Separated? It's safer this way. He couldn't meet her eyes. Zhao has spies everywhere. And if something goes wrong? If one of us is compromised? The unspoken fear hung between them, that this might be their last moment alone. In answer, Takashi pulled her into a shadowed doorway, his hands framing her face with unexpected tenderness. Their lips met in a kiss unlike the desperate one they'd shared in San Francisco or the brief touch in the tunnel. This was deliberate, a choice made with full awareness of its consequences. When they finally broke apart, breathless, Takashi pressed his forehead to hers. Find me on the other side, he whispered. Whatever happens. I will, she promised. But Takashi, we both know how this ends. There's no future where a Yakuza lord and an Interpol agent walk away together. He traced the curve of her cheek, memorizing her. Then we'll have to create one. As dawn broke over Tokyo, they parted, May to her Interpol handler, Takashi to become someone he'd never been. Both carrying the impossible weight of a love that threatened everything they'd built and everything they hoped to destroy. The Intelligence Summit transformed Tokyo's International Forum into a fortress. World leaders, agency directors, and security experts gathered under the pretense of cooperation while conducting the real business of espionage in private rooms and secured corridors. May moved through the crowd in a sleek black pantsuit, her Interpol badge prominently displayed. Her hair was now cut short, dyed a subtle auburn, part of her cover as a Franco-Chinese liaison officer. 2 days of intensive preparation with her handler had refined her approach, but nothing could prepare her for the moment she spotted Takashi. Or rather, Kenji Tanaka. His transformation was remarkable. Gone were the sharp suits and intimidating presence of a Yakuza lord. This man wore conservative glasses, moved with the efficient precision of corporate security, and spoke with a Tokyo accent rather than his native Osaka dialect. Their eyes met across the main hall. One heartbeat of recognition, then nothing, both continuing their separate paths as planned. Her earpiece crackled. Target entering South Conference Room, 2 minutes. Victor Zhao, architect of 25 years of bloodshed. The man who had ordered both their fathers killed and set them on collision courses that should have ended in mutual destruction rather than this forbidden alliance. May positioned herself near the service entrance, pulse accelerating as a distinguished man in his 60s approached, flanked by security. Zhao had aged well, silver hair, commanding presence, the confident stride of someone accustomed to wielding invisible power. As he passed, his cologne triggered a buried memory, the same scent from the night of the fire. She hadn't realized she remembered it until this moment. Her hand instinctively moved toward her concealed weapon, but she forced it back to her side. Not yet. They needed evidence, not martyrdom. Package moving to secure level, her handler's voice announced in her ear. Proceed to position B. The secure level required highest clearance. This was where Takashi's role became crucial. His Tanaka Corporation credentials would grant him access as a security consultant. In the service elevator, May found herself suddenly joined by two men, ghost cell operatives, judging by their subtle earpieces and the way they assessed her in the confined space. Had they made her? Her heart hammered against her ribs as the floors ticked by. The door opened on the secure level, revealing Takashi waiting with a security tablet. Their eyes locked for an electrifying second before he gestured professionally. "Credentials, please," he requested in flawless bureaucratic Japanese. The ghost cell operatives presented their badges. When May offered hers, Takashi's fingers brushed against her hand, a deliberate, fleeting contact that sent electricity through her veins. "You're cleared, Agent Chen," he said, his formal tone betraying nothing of the storm beneath. As she passed, he murmured under his breath, "South Corridor. Storage Room B. 2 minutes." The storage room was little more than a closet, dimly lit and crowded with electronics. When the door opened behind her, May spun, weapon half drawn before recognizing Takashi. "We have 90 seconds, he said, locking the door. "Zhao's meeting is in the blue conference room. The evidence is in his private tablet." May cut him off, pulling him into a kiss that surprised them both with its intensity. For precious seconds, they allowed themselves to forget the mission, the danger, the impossibility of their situation. "What was that for?" he asked when they finally broke apart, breathless. "In case we don't get another chance," she whispered. His expression softened for a moment before the mask of Kenji Tanaka slipped back into place. "I've identified 3 ghost cell agents on this floor. They're watching for you specifically. They suspect something. Or someone revealed your identity." His jaw tightened. "Your Interpol handler. Do you trust him completely?" The question hung between them. Trust had become a luxury neither could fully afford. "I trust you," she said finally. "Against all logic and training. Against everything I've believed for 25 years. The confession cost her visibly. Takashi reached for her, then stopped as his earpiece chimed. "Zhao is moving," he reported. "Earlier than expected. We need to—" The storage room door burst open. Tanaka stood in the doorway, his ancient face twisted with fury and betrayal. "I warned your father about the Chen family," he spat at Takashi. "Now I find his son rutting with one in a closet while betraying his own people." Behind the old man stood Ichiro and 2 ghost cell operatives, weapons trained on them both. "You're working with them?" Takashi's disbelief was genuine. "After everything?" "Survival," Tanaka replied coldly. "Something you've forgotten while chasing this Chinese whore." May's hand inched toward her weapon, but Takashi subtly shook his head. They were outnumbered, cornered. "Take them to Zhao," Tanaka ordered. "He'll want to see the architects of his own inconvenience before they're eliminated." As they were led away, wrists bound behind them, May caught Takashi's eye. In his gaze she saw not defeat, but determination, and something else that made her heart twist painfully in her chest. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The blue conference room had been transformed into an impromptu interrogation chamber. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Tokyo's glittering skyline, the city oblivious to the drama unfolding 50 stories above its streets. Victor Zhao stood with his back to the door, swirling amber liquid in a crystal tumbler. When he turned, his smile was almost paternal. "The children of my greatest achievements," he said, studying them both. "How fascinating to find you working together after all my efforts to keep your families at war." Takashi strained against his restraints, earning a brutal blow from one of the ghost cell operatives. Blood trickled from his split lip as he glared at Zhao. You orchestrated everything, May said, keeping her voice steady. The murder of our fathers, the war between our organizations. Why? Controlled chaos, my dear. Zhao approached her, close enough that she could smell that familiar cologne. Peace between Yakuza and Triad would have eliminated our influence in Asia. We needed you fighting each other, not us. He turned to Takashi. Your father was particularly troublesome with his old-world notions of honor. The Triads at least understood business. You're insane, Takashi spat. I'm practical. Zhao's smile never wavered. As is your mentor, Tanaka. He recognized which side would prevail. Tanaka stood silently in the corner, his ancient eyes unreadable. 25 years of bloodshed, May said, her voice breaking. Thousands dead. For what? American intelligence interests? For power, Miss Chen. The only currency that matters. Zhao checked his watch. Unfortunately, I have a keynote address in 30 minutes. Tanaka has kindly offered his facility in Yokohama for your extended questioning. Translation, execution. You won't get away with this, Takashi warned. My organization believes you've betrayed them for a Chinese spy? Ichiro interrupted. They've already declared you dead to them. As the ghost cell operatives moved to transport them, Zhao paused by May. Your father would be disappointed, Agent Chen. Falling for the son of his killer. How melodramatic. He didn't kill my father, May responded, her eyes flashing. You did, and I can prove it. Something flickered across Zhao's composed features, the first crack in his confidence. Her handler, Tanaka warned. He has the evidence package. Find him, Zhao ordered sharply. Now. In the momentary distraction, Takashi caught May's eye, a silent message passing between them. They had one chance. As they were led toward the service elevator, May stumbled deliberately into her guard. The moment his grip loosened, she struck, a vicious upward thrust with her head that shattered his nose. Simultaneously, Takashi dropped to the ground, sweeping the legs from beneath the second operative. Chaos erupted in the corridor. Alarms blared as security protocols activated throughout the building. Ichiro drew his weapon, but Takashi was faster, driving his shoulder into his former advisor's chest, sending them both crashing through a decorative screen. Run! He shouted to May as he grappled with Ichiro. She hesitated, unwilling to leave him. The evidence! Go! Takashi commanded, blood streaming down his face as Ichiro's fist connected with his jaw. With a last anguished look, May fled down the corridor toward the main security hub, where her handler would be waiting. Behind her, she heard gunshots, the sickening sound of violence, and then silence. Her handler, Jakob, was exactly where he promised, the Northeast Security Station. His face drained of color when he saw her, bloodied and alone. Where's Nakamura? He demanded. Captured, maybe dead. The words tore from her throat. Do you have it? Jakob nodded, handing over a small flash drive. Everything we need to bring down Zhao and Ghost Cell. But May, we have to go now. The building's locked down. Not without Takashi, she insisted. He's Yakuza, Jakob reminded her gently. This was always going to end badly for him. You don't understand, she began, but stopped as Jakob's expression changed subtly. His hand moved toward his weapon. I understand perfectly, he said, his voice now cold. You've been compromised. The betrayal struck like physical pain. You're with them. I'm with whoever ensures my survival. Jakob aimed his weapon at her heart. Now, the flash drive. Behind him, a shadow moved, a figure dressed in the black tactical gear of Ghost Cell. May tensed, preparing for the end. The shadow struck with lethal precision. Jakob crumpled, revealing Takashi standing behind him, blood-soaked but alive. He wore the uniform of the operative he'd obviously killed to obtain it. You came back, May whispered. I'll always come back for you, he answered, the simple truth of it hanging in the air between them. Alarms continued to wail around them as the building went into complete lockdown. They had minutes, perhaps seconds, before they'd be discovered. "The evidence?" Takashi asked, breathing heavily from his exertions. May held up the flash drive. "Everything we need." His hand closed over hers, their fingers intertwining around the small device that represented 25 years of searching. "Now we just have to survive long enough to use it," he said grimly. Snow fell on Tokyo, blanketing the city in temporary innocence. From the window of the abandoned shrine where they'd taken refuge, May watched white flakes dissolve on the heated pavement far below. 72 hours had passed since their escape from the intelligence summit. 72 hours of hiding, tending wounds, and waiting. "The upload is complete," Takashi announced, his voice rough from exhaustion. "Every intelligence agency in the world now has access to Zhao's operations, including his connection to Ghost Cell." May turned from the window. Takashi looked like a different man, stubbled, hollow-eyed, a makeshift bandage wrapped around his torso where Ichiro's blade had found its mark, yet something in how he watched her remained unchanged. "And your message to the Yakuza Council?" she asked. "Sent." He closed the laptop. "With Tanaka's betrayal exposed and evidence of Ichiro's collusion with Ghost Cell, they may grant me a hearing. Not forgiveness, but a chance to explain." The unspoken truth hung between them. Explanation wasn't absolution. Even if he survived this, Takashi would spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder. The Yakuza Code had no provision for leniency, only justice. "My handler at Interpol, my real handler, has arranged extraction," May said quietly. "A private airfield outside the city. We leave at dawn." "We?" Takashi's expression betrayed nothing. "Witness protection, new identities." She hesitated. "For both of us, if you want it." He rose from the table, moving to stand before her. The distance between them was minimal yet vast, filled with the weight of who they were, what they'd done, and all they could never be. "You know I can't," he said finally. "My father's legacy is exactly that," she interrupted. "A legacy, not a prison." His jaw tightened. "The council will hunt me to the ends of the earth if I run. And I'll hunt them back," she promised fiercely. Despite everything, he smiled, that rare, genuine expression she'd glimpsed so few times. "The daughter of Chen Wei-Lin, protector of a Yakuza lord. What would your father say?" "That I finally found someone worth fighting for," she whispered. For a moment, they stood balanced on the knife edge of possibility. Then Takashi reached for her, one hand gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "One night," he murmured. "Before we decide. One night without the past." His touch ignited something that had been building since that first moment in the restaurant. May leaned into his hand, turning to press her lips against his palm. A gesture of surrender and claiming all at once. Their first kiss had been desperation. Their second, goodbye. This was different, deliberate, a choice made with full knowledge of its cost. As snow continued to fall outside, they lost themselves in each other, finding momentary sanctuary in the storm. Dawn found them entwined beneath thin blankets, the cold held at bay by shared warmth. May traced the intricate tattoos that covered Takashi's body. Dragons and cherry blossoms, honor and memory. "You have to go," he said finally, his voice heavy with resignation. "The extraction team won't wait." "Come with me," she pleaded one last time. In answer, he reached for the burner phone beside their makeshift bed. A message illuminated the screen, coordinates, followed by a single character. Chu. Vengeance. "The council has called for me," he explained. "Not to grant mercy, to exact payment." Understanding dawned in her eyes. "It's a trap." "Of course it is." He rose, gathering his clothes. "But it's also my only chance to end this properly." "By dying?" Her voice cracked. "By facing what I've done." He knelt before her, taking her hands in his. "May, listen to me. Go to the extraction point. Start the life you deserve. Tears spilled onto their joined hands. Not without you. I will find you, he promised with quiet intensity. Whatever it takes. She shook her head. They'll kill you the moment you appear. Perhaps. He smiled faintly. Or perhaps my father's legacy includes more than just enemies. As they prepared to part, the shrine suddenly shuddered with the distant thump of helicopter rotors. Through the window, black-clad figures appeared on adjacent rooftops, ghost cell operatives closing in. How? May gasped. Takashi's expression darkened as realization struck. He reached for her handler's phone, examining it with growing dread. The extraction message. It was intercepted. Then we're surrounded. No, he corrected grimly. You're surrounded. They don't know I'm here. Understanding bloomed in her eyes. You want me to go alone? Draw them away. I'll create a diversion on the south side. You'll have 90 seconds to reach the subway entrance. And then what? She demanded, panic edging her voice. Then you run, he said simply, and I face the council. This is goodbye, she realized, the words falling like stones. Instead of answering, Takashi pulled her into a last, desperate embrace. Their lips met with the finality of a seal being set, a promise, a memory, a farewell. Cherry blossoms, he whispered against her mouth. I still owe you that. Before she could respond, he was moving toward the southern exit, weapon drawn, the Yakuza lord once more. At the doorway, he paused, looking back at her with eyes that held 25 years of questions and regrets. Aishitaru, he said softly, the words he'd never spoken. I love you. Then he was gone, leaving only silence and the gentle fall of snow. 6 months later, cherry blossoms fell like snow over Ueno Park. May sat alone on a weathered bench, a paperback novel open but unread on her lap. Her hair was longer now, lightened to a warm honey brown. New name, new identity, new life in witness protection. Everything except a new heart. Zhao had been arrested 2 days after Tokyo, his empire crumbling as evidence mounted against him. Ghost cell operatives were being tracked down systematically by international task forces. Justice of a sort had been served, but no word of Takashi Nakamura. No body, no confirmation of execution by the Yakuza Council. Just silence. May had searched discreetly at first, then desperately as weeks turned to months. Her Interpol contacts found nothing. It was as if he had simply vanished from the earth. Logic told her he was dead. Her heart refused to believe it. A child's laughter drew her attention to a family photographing the blossoms. Normal life. The life she was supposed to be building. Her phone vibrated, a text from her protection detail, checking in. She ignored it, returning to her book. The pages riffled in the breeze, revealing a pressed cherry blossom she'd been using as a bookmark. The ending is disappointing, a voice said in Japanese. The protagonist deserved better. The world stopped. Slowly, May raised her eyes. A man stood before her, unfamiliar at first glance. Casual clothes, hair longer and touched with premature silver at the temples, glasses that changed the shape of his face. But the eyes, those she would know anywhere. You're dead, she whispered, afraid to believe. For 3 months I was. Takashi, or the ghost of him, sat beside her, maintaining a careful distance. The council required payment. I gave it. Her hand trembled as she reached for him, needing to confirm he was flesh, not fantasy. How did you find me? I promised, didn't I? His smile held shadows of what he'd endured. Cherry blossoms. Questions crowded her throat. How he had survived, what price the Yakuza had extracted, how he had tracked her through witness protection. Instead, she asked the only one that mattered. Are you still hunted? Always, he answered honestly. But not by those I once called brothers. My debt is paid. And Ghost Cell? What remains of them is more concerned with survival than revenge. Around them, tourists photographed the fleeting blossoms, oblivious to the reunion unfolding on the weathered bench. May's protection detail watched from a discreet distance, alerted by the unexpected visitor, but not yet intervening. "What happens now?" she asked, voice barely audible over the rustling petals. Takashi gazed at the falling blossoms. "That depends on whether a former Interpol agent could love a former Yakuza lord, whether two people with too much blood between them could possibly build something new." "I never stopped," she admitted, the words releasing something long caged within her chest. "Loving you, I mean, despite everything." He turned to her then, eyes holding all the weight of their impossible journey. "Then perhaps we begin again. Not as Chen and Nakamura, with all their ghosts, but as who we might have been, in another life." From his pocket, he withdrew a small origami crane, identical to those she had shown him in Kyoto 25 years ago. "I kept my promise," he said simply, offering the paper bird. "Though it took longer than I intended." As her fingers closed around the delicate creation, May felt something tucked inside, a small key. "A cabin in Hokkaido," Takashi explained. "Far from both our worlds. A place to disappear, if you want it." The choice crystallized before her: security or risk, safety or love. The path of witness protection stretched before her, lonely, protected, empty. Beside it lay a road with no guarantees except the man sitting next to her. "My protection detail won't let me just walk away," she said, nodding toward the agents trying to appear inconspicuous nearby. Takashi's smile held a hint of his old confidence. "I may have arranged a distraction." As if on cue, commotion erupted at the park's main entrance. Nothing dangerous, just confusion enough to draw attention. 60 seconds to decide," he said quietly. May looked at him, really looked, seeing the man who had saved her twice, who had sacrificed everything, who had found her against impossible odds. She saw Takashi Nakamura, son of Hiroshi, former Yakuza lord, and she saw simply the boy who had once promised her cherry blossoms. Her decision was already made. Had been, perhaps, from that first moment in the restaurant when their eyes met, and 25 years of separation collapsed in an instant. "I hope you packed warm clothes," she said, rising from the bench. "Hokkaido gets cold." His answering smile was like sunrise after the longest night. As cherry blossoms continued to fall around them, they walked away together, not as Chinese and Japanese, not as cop and criminal, not as enemies thrust together by circumstance. Simply as two people who had found, against all odds, that some loves are worth the price they demand. Behind them, the origami crane remained on the bench, a fragile testament to a promise kept and a future uncertain, but, for the first time, theirs to choose.